Hi everyone and welcome to episode 29 of You from the Sideline podcast. Coming up this week, we take a look at the Premier League action from the weekend, including a 7-goal thriller at the London Stadium, and it's a good day on Merseyside with Liverpool returning to the top of the table and Everton beating a lacklustre Chelsea. In the EFL, Sheffield United take the bragging rights and the points with a win over Leeds, and in League One, only 8 points separate the bottom 12 teams in what is turning out to be a guessing game for who's going down. We have all the usual features this week, including a weekly teaser and a predictions update, as well as a look at the weekend's FA Cup action. In part 2, we'll be taking an in-depth look at the quarter-final draws in Europe and the FA Cup semi-finals. So let's get started.
Hello and welcome to Views from the Sideline podcast. It's Chris here and Rich is here as well.
Hi Chris, good evening.
Evening Rich, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, mate, thanks. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, not too bad. We've got double teaser again this week, haven't we? Pete's.
We have, yeah.
Pete's got a trivia book out.
We're getting inundated with teasers each week, as if ours aren't good enough. So we're having to add an additional one in. But I'm excited by the teaser, Chris, because you sent me some sort of chart in the week and said that I'd need it, but I've no idea what it is. So I'm interested to find out.
Well, we'll find out now. Or we'll do Pete's teaser quickly. So if you want to just discuss that.
Yeah. So the teaser that Pete has put for us this week is which keeper holds the record for the most Premier League appearances, so 572 appearances. I think I know that one. I hope I do. So I think I can guide us at the end, Chris. I think I can guide us towards the right answer for that one.
Possibly 2 or 3 candidates, but I think one stands out more than the rest, if I'm honest.
I do hope we're thinking of the same person, otherwise this is going to be
very awkward.
A bit embarrassing.
Anyway, we'll move on to the teaser that I've prepared for you. Something slightly a bit different this week. So I actually sent you something in advance to have a look at. Now, all I gave you was a thing at the top, I believe, that said club. Is that right? And then a list of clubs underneath it.
Yeah. So you've listed 5 clubs, but twice. So I've got 2 Liverpools, 2 Tottenhams, 2 Chelsea, 2 Man City, and 2 Man United.
Okay. So they're in a specific order because they are the actual transfer value of each of these players, current Premier League players. So this is what they're supposed to be worth, according to the most up-to-date transfer market. I don't know how they work it out, but they have. So from the top, you can see Liverpool. So basically what I want you to do later on in the podcast is tell me which player corresponds to which club.
Right.
And they're in order of value. So the top one says Liverpool is the highest value.
So you're going to give me a value and I need to assign the value to the player.
Yeah.
But you've given me which club it is.
Yeah, I've given you the club. So all you really need to do is just guess the player. I can give you the value of each one just to make it a little bit easier. But you need to get them in the right order. That's the catch.
Okay. This doesn't really work for radio, but
I will put it on online.
I think that I think we could fill some of them out. Okay, I'll have a go.
So we'll go into. So we've got 2 different reviews today. We've got the Premier League games that did play, and then also the 4 FA Cup games that took place as well. So we will start with the Premier League, and we'll start with the Bournemouth-Newcastle game. I think Newcastle will be a bit disappointed that they obviously took the lead. What a great free kick from Rondon. I wasn't aware that he could take free kicks like that, to be honest, but nice free kick from him. Obviously, Bournemouth get a penalty. Arms all over Ake, so I don't think there was any dispute in the penalty itself. And then King
Well,
rounded it off. Really.
I'm just gonna maybe possibly disagree with you on the penalty. And I do feel that it's kind of a hangover from the World Cup, because I mean I know it. Just to get it straight from where I'm coming from,
Yeah.
so I think it was a penalty. I'm not going to dispute that, but I think that is the kind of tussle, the kind of challenge that goes on pretty much every week in the penalty area in the majority of football leagues. And I think there's probably an inconsistency with it being punished. So, I mean, there were a few penalties over the weekend where some were probably a bit more obvious than others, and I kind of think that one was in the middle for me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been totally surprised if the ref hadn't have given it. But I think it's almost as if they're getting ready for VAR coming in next year, and with VAR, that's probably a decision that would be awarded as a penalty.
But I think from your normal tussle that you normally see in the box, it was more because they both went up for the header, and he had his arms obviously around his head, pushing him towards the ground. I just think this one was more obvious for the referee to spot than the normal, because obviously normally he's got to look at about 5 different tussles in the box, but this one was just a bit obvious, I think, for him. But like I said, I think Newcastle will be disappointed that they lost that one.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a late
Bournemouth.
goal. I mean, just on Rondon's free kick, I think we almost forget he's on loan at Newcastle. I think he's someone they probably want to sort of buy permanently for next year. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I remember at the beginning of the season when they played Spurs' first game of the season, and Rondon was someone that I thought would do really well for Newcastle.
It took him a while, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It took him a while to get going, and he's not. He has been a bit inconsistent, but you know what Newcastle fans are like. They love a sort of centre forward, don't they? And I think he's done pretty well, and Newcastle are in a pretty decent run of form at the moment. I mean, there's no talk of relegation with them anymore.
No, they've got away from that sort of pack, haven't they? Now that I think they're more than enough safe now to.
And it'll be interesting to see what happens in the summer with Newcastle, with Benitez, whether he's going to stay or not. And
I think it might heavily go down to if he gets the money that he wants for transfers. Obviously, I don't even know if they're being taken. Are they being taken over anymore? I know that they came out.
I don't know. There's still sort of gossip and conversations about it, but I mean, Mike Ashley doesn't seem in any sort of rush to sell, so I don't know. We'll see. A decent point for Newcastle. Yeah. I agree with you. They'll probably be a bit disappointed to come away with only a point the way they've been playing lately, but Bournemouth played well, I thought.
Yeah. Burnley Leicester next. I have a question for you about this. Because we actually spoke about something similar to this last week. So Maguire gets sent off, right? But if he waits till the players in the box and then brings them down, he doesn't get sent off. Am I right in saying that? He wouldn't get sent off?
Well, that's the double jeopardy thing, isn't it? I think the reason, I mean, it's a game changer. It's a game changer in the respect of.
It was so early, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the whole, because when I was following this match on Saturday, you were almost just waiting for Burnley to score. You were almost waiting for them just to score the winner when it was at 1-1. And I think there's something to be said about. I don't think it's as easy as you think it is when a team goes down to 10 men, because I think the level at which players are playing, especially in the Premier League, it only takes sort of Burnley, I guess, for 3, 4, 5 of their players to drop their playing level by a couple of percent, and it almost is made up for by the fact that Leicester have had a man sent off.
More pressure on you as well, isn't there, when you're playing against 10 men.
Yeah, there is, and I think Burnley's probably the worst team to support if they're playing against 10 men, because they're not the sort of team that are going to sort of pin you down and put you under a constant stream of pressure. They don't really sort of break teams down as much as some of the other clubs in the Premier League do. But yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, I'm not convinced. I mean, I guess he must be sent off because it's a clear goal scoring opportunity and he's the last man. I mean, it's clumsy more than anything. I think it's sort of just a tangle of legs and he goes down, and I think Maguire knows what's coming. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if he was in the area, maybe he wouldn't have got sent off. So, but then they get a penalty. But I mean, it worked out all right for them in the end.
Oh yeah, another free kick goal in this game with Maddison scoring. I think Maddison's probably been their best player this season.
I like Maddison. Yeah, I wonder whether they'll keep hold of him in the summer. He's had a really good season.
We spoke about him last week again. Wes Morgan scoring, the goal that wins the game, and I see today he's been given an extension on his contract for another year. So I think he'd probably go, but
I do wonder whether that's sort of having him around the club. Especially in this sort of transitional period with Rodgers coming in and whatnot. I mean, I can't imagine that Rodgers is going to want to start putting his own sort of stamp on the squad, and they've got Johnny Evans there, they've got Maguire. I'm not sure that
they've got a decent squad, haven't they?
They have got a decent squad. They have got a decent squad, and Rodgers has certainly sort of toughened them up a bit.
They look better.
He's growing on me. He's growing on me a little bit, Rodgers, which I don't sort of like to admit. But there's no way under Claude Puel that they would. No, absolutely. There's no way on earth they would have won that.
Okay, so we'll move on to probably the game of the weekend. And if anything, this game really sums up Huddersfield's season. Not only do they score 3 goals in one game, but they end up losing the game as well. I have to say as well, after the game, I don't know if you saw the interview with the Huddersfield manager. It was the first time that he's actually shown, I would say, emotion towards a defeat. I think he looked pretty unhappy that they'd lost that game, and he even said to the reporter, what am I supposed to do with, so I think he was a bit upset by that.
Yeah, and I don't blame him, to be honest, but I think that West Ham almost did a Huddersfield to Huddersfield. I know we keep talking about the bottom 3 or 4 sides and their sort of constant sort of lack of defending in any sort of match that they're playing, and I think West Ham were like that. West Ham defended like Huddersfield and Fulham have been defended, and I think that's why. No disrespect, not taking anything away from Huddersfield, because I think they deserved to be in the lead. I think they deserved to be 3-1 up, but then what happens if you're 3-1 away from home? I think you should be winning that game.
Well, yeah, you should be shutting up shop, like they say, and just.
And I know they're not the most
huge risks.
and they're not the most confident team when it comes to defending. But when West Ham get the second goal, you can almost feel that they're going to go on and at least get a point if they don't go on to win it, which of course they did. And I'm not sure what the keeper's doing for the 4th goal. I mean, it's sort of it's not a cross that's got a lot of height on it, and it's sort of, I don't quite know how to explain it. And he comes for it and then thinks, I'm not going to get it, and then just sort of stops, and it's the faintest of flicks from Hernandez, and then it's in. I'm not quite sure what happened with it. 2
typical Hernandez goals, I would say. Inside the 6-yard box.
The equaliser for 3-3. There wasn't a defender near him.
I remember when he was at Man United, and he always used to score against Chelsea. Whenever we played them, he never used to start the games, but he used to come on, and he always used to be right there, right when the ball
Yeah, I've gone off him
deflects
a
off
bit though. Was it last week he dived? He
Yeah,
had
it was last week.
Yeah, I've gone off him a bit after
It
that.
was, it was up
Diving's
there with the worst.
diving's really got on getting my goat lately. I don't know what it is, but
Everyone's
I've gone off him a bit.
Anyway,
but yeah, well,
good.
I mean, you
Can't
can't
take
take it
anything
away
from West Ham, can you? That they've come back and
no, you can't.
that,
But I mean, it depends which way you look at it. There's no way Huddersfield should have won that lost that. Sorry, from the position they were in, and based on form and the teams on paper, there's no way West Ham should have been
so I believe
3-1 down.
If Cardiff win their game in hand, Huddersfield will need. I think there's only one more defeat, and they could be gone. So
well, yeah. So if Cardiff win their game in hand, they'll go up to 31, which will then push Burnley into the bottom three. Burnley have lost their last 4. I mean, it just shows what a couple of games can do down there.
Burnley, they won like 2 or 3 in a row, didn't they?
And then they've lost their last 4, and then they've got Wolves next up. That will mean Huddersfield will be 16 points behind, and there's only 8 games left, so we've got 24 points to play for. Yeah. So it's getting pretty close. But
I think we're
well, yeah, probably just on the table. I mean. Just very quickly on West Ham, and they've really impressed me at times this season. But if you look at their form, they sort of win, then they lose, they win, then they lose, etc., etc. And they seem to carry on that same sort of path. But if you look at the sort of 7th to 10th, so you've got Wolves, Watford, West Ham, and Leicester, and there's only 3 points between them. Bearing in mind how well we think Wolves are having. What a good season we think Wolves are having. West Ham are only 2 points off them. Admittedly, Wolves have got a game in hand because of the FA Cup, but I just wanted to see what you thought, Chris, about if West Ham were if West Ham were more consistent, whether they could seriously mount like a top 6 challenge.
They didn't start the season off the best. There was a 6 straight defeats, I think it was, or something.
Yeah, so but that's what I mean. If they were more consistent, I mean, they've won 12, lost 13, drawn 6. The goal difference is in a negative of 5. But I just think that.
Yeah, I think so. You're right though. They seem to win and then lose, but unlike Wolves, I think their defeats probably get highlighted more than what Wolves would. So I think you kind of notice more when West Ham are losing. When Wolves lose, it's still kind of Wolves have lost, but you kind of pay more attention to a defeat for West Ham.
I just think with the
you're right there. If they would have,
well, with the performances West Ham put in, for example, like when they played Liverpool at home. West Ham are 15 points behind Chelsea. You could probably make up 15 points and give them to West Ham that they should have had this season, where they've lost or whether they've dropped points. They're almost like a team that you just want to give a bit of a kickstart to. I just wonder whether it's next season or the season after, we're actually going to be talking about them in a different light.
If they start better next season, maybe they can build on that. I just don't think they started in the right way, and I think that's kind of.
No, I don't think you're wrong.
Even if they just would have won 3 out of those 6 first games, they'd be pretty comfortable in 7th, to be honest. So
yeah, we'll see. Maybe next year.
So the Fulham Liverpool game. So this, Fulham, I will say, are much better recently than what they have been since Parker took over. I just don't think Liverpool played that great, but still grinding out the win, which is, I think, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, what Man City were doing. I think Man City won 1-0 like in consecutive wins, 1-0. They didn't play particularly great, but I wasn't. I want to say that Liverpool didn't deserve to win it, but I wouldn't say that Fulham deserved to win it either. I thought a draw was probably fair. Liverpool had quite a few good chances, but
well, yeah. I mean, I think I think Liverpool are doing. There's a few things in this match, if I'm honest with you. So the first thing for me is I don't think that Liverpool sort of got out of second gear. To be honest, I think the first goal. I mean, Mane is on such a great run of form at the moment. I think that's 9 in his last 9 Premier League games, and I think if you include Europe in that as well, I think he's got 11 in 11 or 10 in 10. And the way Mo Salah's been playing recently, I mean, he hasn't been getting the headlines. I think he missed a couple of good chances against Fulham, and I think he has in recent weeks as well. But Mane's really, really sort of stepped up and taken on the mantle for Liverpool. And the first goal, I mean, it was almost the Fulham back four was sort of in pretty good positions, and then the midfield were quite deep as well. But Liverpool almost sort of just played in the smallest of gaps between the back four and the midfield four.
Yeah,
and Liverpool was hugely outnumbered in the box, but sort of little intricate passing, Mane to Firmino with a good touch lays it back, and then sort of Mane puts it in. But then I just thought they almost went into cruise control, and the funny thing for me was it was as Liverpool was sort of going up through the gears a bit more that Fulham actually equalised.
I think it kind of shocked Liverpool that they conceded the goal. I think
it did. But I mean, the sort of 10-15 minutes before Fulham equalised, Liverpool were putting more pressure on. They were having more chances. They could have been 2-3 up, and then I mean, you can't sort of do anything about the mistake. I mean, I think the reason it's probably sort of amplified as much as it is because it probably involves the 2 Liverpool players that have been as consistent and sort of outstanding this season than any other player they've got. And I think it's just a mix-up, really. And I'm not sure whose fault it is. I mean, on first view, and I sort of blame the keeper more, but I don't know. Maybe they're both as to blame as each other. But
I would have said they both. I would have said both. Slightly, I'd take blame for it, but you know, if that game's 0-0 and then that happens, I think more would have been said about it than obviously if they. Obviously, they ended up winning the game,
but it happened with 15 minutes to go. If I was a Liverpool fan, I'd be sort of pretty nervous going into the last 15 minutes at 1-1 and the prospect of dropping more points. I mean, where do you stand on the penalty?
My head and my heart say 2 different things.
I don't think it was a penalty.
My head says it wasn't. I think the keeper
put the. I don't know. I heard on Match of the Day, I think it was Leon Osman said the keeper put it up for sale and Mane bought it, and I completely agree with that. I think the keeper's almost given him a free pass to just go down, and there's going to be a penalty. I mean, it was soft, and I just wonder, sort of going into the sort of last couple of months of the season with Liverpool in the position they're in, whether it's going to have what sort of impact it will have on the title race. I mean, if they go on to win it, it may be something that's absolutely gone their way, but time will tell. But no, going back to your original point, I think Fulham do look a lot better.
They look more organised, I'll say that. But he's taken it back a bit. He's gone back to almost the side that got them in the Premier League. He's kind of.
Do you think he'll get the job?
I think if they go down, he will. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'll be careful how I say this. I think he's turned them into a top 8 championship club, even though they're in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think
I
think they're sort of a team now that it's almost like if a mid-table Premier League side drew Aston Villa, for example, in the FA Cup, you'd be a bit, could be an upset here. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an upset. That's kind of what I feel that Scott Parker's turned Fulham into.
Yeah,
which
it's
bodes
hard to
well.
say.
Which bodes well for next season. So we'll see.
Anyway, it's the one we've been waiting for.
Everton v Chelsea. Now
Not
I'm
much really.
gonna shock
happened.
you here, Chris. I am gonna
Okay.
big up Everton.
God, here we go.
I am gonna big up Everton, but not just because they beat Chelsea, but would you not agree that game almost, like you say, the Huddersfield game sums up Huddersfield season? This game for me sums up Everton's season. The first half, they are almost not non-existent, but nothing really happens. They're not posing much threat.
No.
It was quite a dull game, and you think that the two teams that are playing and the players that are on the pitch, it should be a lot more exciting, etc., etc. And that's how Everton I have found that they've been this year. But the second half, whatever Silva said at half time, he should have, because the second half is exactly what I expect Everton to be, game in, game out. The players they've got, the stature of the club, the second half I thought they were superb, and I thought Chelsea were the complete opposite. I don't know what you thought, but there were times when Hazard and Higuain were just sort of jogging. There was no urgency to get into areas. I think David Luiz, I mean, there was one chance in the second half where he was almost motionless, just with his hand in the air, waiting for the linesman to flag for offside, and he didn't. And then he sort of thought, "Oh, I better get back." And there's just no urgency with Chelsea at all, no urgency whatsoever.
It's exactly what happened last weekend against Wolves. They just, teams have sussed the tactics out. They're not stupid. Every team in the Premier League knows that he's only got one way of playing. There's no other plan. It's either we play this way or we don't play anywhere at all. So I thought first half, Chelsea dominated the possession, and they should have scored at least 2 or 3. I would have said, but
do you not think that, or do you not find that anything good from a Chelsea perspective goes through Hazard? I mean,
well, yeah, it has to. Yeah, well, there's no.
But the 2 or 3 chances that I think Chelsea had, I mean, Pickford played well, I thought, especially after last week at Newcastle. He was under a bit of pressure, but it's only when Hazard does something, I know we've said this before, that Chelsea actually look dangerous. I'm still not sold on Higuain at all. I think the fact he's only scored against sort of Huddersfield and Fulham speaks volumes.
It doesn't. The problem is, I don't think
he's not getting the service. He's not getting the service. But then I don't understand why they bought him. I don't know why Sarri is not playing to his strengths personally. But
I just don't understand, because obviously Thursday night, although it was Dynamo Kiev, completely aware of that, but Giroud scores a hat trick, yet he doesn't start on Sunday. Giroud plays so much better than what Higuain does. Like, Giroud is so good at holding the ball up and laying it off for the other players, whereas Higuain won't do that. He'll look to try and score, whereas Giroud will try and score, but also look out for others around him. You get what I mean?
Yeah, but do you think that there's? We spoke about this earlier today, and you sort of said that you weren't so much worried about the league anymore because sort of most of the hopes were pinned on the Europa League. But do you think there's an element of that with the players? I mean, because the draw you've had is pretty easy, but I just think if you sum up the whole situation with Chelsea, and I think sort of Zidane going back to Madrid and the whole Hazard transfer story starting up again. There's stories in the press about Abramovich selling because he can't get back in the country. The transfer ban, the lack of confidence with with the manager, Hudson-Odoi wanting out, and the whole
just seems
sort
to
of
be a
Chelsea
lot of,
thing seems to be a bit of a mess at the moment.
it's a lot of stuff off the pitch rather. There's more stuff happening off the pitch than there is on the pitch, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but do you not think one
like
is linked to the other? Do you not think the fact that
I think it's all
there's
probably
so
linked
much
together?
but there's so much happening off the pitch that it's having an effect on the pitch?
I would say it probably is. Yeah, I'd say in some ways, but it's hard to believe. I think it was December the 8th. We were level on points with Liverpool and Man City, and then we played you and lost, and then ever since then we've been terrible.
Yeah. Well, the other stat from this game, I think it's Everton have gone 25 matches without a victory over the top 6. So that was the first win in 26 against the top 6.
That's our 4th away defeat in our last 5 away. So our last 5 away games, we've lost 4 of those, and in all 4 of those, we've not scored.
Yeah, well, the stat that surprised me that I saw over the weekend is there's 8 games. So 8 games out of how many have Chelsea played? 31, 30.
Yeah.
So eight of the 30 games that Chelsea have played, they've failed to score in, which is more than double the nearest out of the top teams, which is Man United. So 8 games Chelsea have failed to score in.
Anyway, right, let's move on. Before I get
but I do like it. I do like discussing Chelsea when they lose. Anyway, great win for Everton. I'm going to have to credit where it's due. They thoroughly deserved that.
Great, right. So we'll quickly go through these FA Cup games.
Yeah, I think there's one match we need to sort of focus on a bit. We can probably just quickly skim the others.
Watford Palace game. Obviously Watford take the lead. Then Batshuayi scores again for Palace.
Yeah. Getting back at the bridge.
Sloppy defender from Watford for that goal. I think Mariappa loses the ball, and then Batshuayi takes it on and scores. But obviously, Watford get the winning goal with Gray in the end.
It was sloppy defending. That was a hard game to call. I thought either team could have won it. I think the Gray's goals, probably there's an element of luck. I mean, he doesn't hit it as clean, but when you look at it close up after a couple of times, but he doesn't hit it as cleanly as the fact that he hit it as uncleanly as he did probably means that he scored. But a good win for Watford. Yeah, poor defending from Watford for the Palace equaliser, and Batshuayi again. I mean,
4 and 5 it is for him.
Yeah, I think they might go out to try and buy him in the summer, depending on what happens at Chelsea, whether they want him back or not. Yeah. But no, a good win for Watford.
So the Swansea City game. So this isn't the only game where Premier League finds themselves in a bit of trouble this weekend in the Cup, but end up winning the game anyway. I have to say Swansea were very, very good first half, but I'm not sure what Pep said to Man City at half time. Obviously it worked, but it was one of those though where.
But did it?
If Man City scored,
I think they were so lucky.
Yeah, they were very lucky. But you could almost tell if once they got that goal, it was almost like you could almost tell that they were going to go on and score.
Yeah, I think you could. Yeah. I think you could, and there's definitely the argument that even if you say the decisions were awarded in how they probably should have been, that City may have still gone on and won. But I mean, for me, Swansea's second goal, what a brilliant goal that was. That's the best goal I've seen in this year's FA Cup by a mile. For me, it's not a penalty.
Nope.
I think he gets the ball. The fact that when they scored the penalty, it then rebounds off the keeper to go in just shows Swansea it's not going to be your day. And then the third goal for Aguero is clearly offside. But the thing that I don't get, and there's been a lot of talk about it over the weekend or since the game happened, that there was no VAR. But and the reason that I've heard there was no VAR is because it's not a Premier League ground. But what was also said over the weekend is when Spurs played Swansea, I think it was in the third or fourth round at the Liberty Stadium last year, there was VAR. So it can't be
Silly,
just,
innit?
but it can't be purely because they're not a Premier League club. I mean, yes, they were a Premier League club last year, but it's the only thing, and I don't know whether it's the FA or who it is, but I don't think it's right that you're playing the same games in the same competition at the same time, but we're almost judging each game in a different way. I don't see how you can have Wolves v Man United and VAR and all this technology, etc., etc., but a game in the same competition like a couple of hours before, you don't have that.
Crazy, innit?
I mean,
This doesn't make sense.
I don't know if I could even.
Especially
I don't know
this
if I could
far on
even
in the
understand
competition.
it. Yeah, exactly. But I don't know if I could even understand it if it was like a non-league side, because I don't know what the difference is. But even to say it wasn't at Swansea, and in my opinion, it cost Swansea the game because there was 2 goals there that shouldn't have been goals, I don't think. And Swansea are now out of the cup. But if you just think if Swansea had gone through and the 4 teams that would be left in it, that would be really exciting for a football fan for who's going to go on and win it.
Oh yeah,
But
definitely. But not meant
yeah,
to
I suppose
be.
it's just yeah, well, yeah, but it doesn't make it right.
So
But
the Wolves Man United game, Wolves were very good, but I have to say one thing: Jimenez is playing really, really well for Wolves at the moment. He's scoring goals pretty much in every game at the moment. He didn't have the greatest starts to the season, but he seems to have pulled something in the second half of the season, and he's come out a top player. But I don't think Man United were at the races, to be honest with you. I think that's the second time we've seen them lose in 2 weeks. So
no, I think they look. I agree with you.
just
They
look
did look
tired.
off the pace.
They just
They,
look
they
tired.
did. They did, but they dominated possession. But I just think it just shows that it doesn't matter how much possession you've got. If you're not doing anything with the ball in the final third, it doesn't really count for a lot. I think from the Wolves' perspective, if you think back to the beginning of the season, I think they had the same starting lineup for something like 10 or 11 games, which I think is a Premier League record. And he's changed the way the team play and the personnel since then, obviously as the season's progressed. But the 3 they've got in midfield with Matinho and is it Dendonka? I can't remember the guy's name. Yeah,
Dendonka,
I mean, they are good players and they complement each other. You've got Dendonka that sort of sits and holds a bit more and just gives the others the freedom to play, and the 2 up top are just on fire at the moment. And I don't think it was that much of a surprise. I mean, I know Wolves knocked Liverpool out, but Liverpool did sort of put a sort of second string out. But I almost feel like Man United, they're losing that sort of fear factor that they sort of got back 5 or 6 games after Solskjaer came in. That's 2 they've lost now in a row. I know they beat PSG, but they just didn't. It looked like the bubble had burst a little bit for me. I think Wolves thoroughly deserved that win.
Millwall Brighton. Oh, it's the Millwall keeper.
Crikey.
You
Whatever
would not
happened
want to
to
be
that?
here. Yeah.
No, you
Anyway,
wouldn't.
obviously,
8 minutes to go, 2-0 up, and you end up losing on penalties. It's crazy.
hard to swallow, I would have thought, for a lot of Millwall fans, especially how the second Brighton goal goes in. It's just you would not want to be him and
What you
changing
gonna
rooms.
do?
Yeah.
No, but I mean,
They shouldn't have
it's
let him
the
back
whole.
in the game, to be honest with you. It's just
No, I don't think it's purely down to him. I mean, I think that sort of like I say, 2-0 up with 8 minutes to go. You should play that game out anyway. You should see it out quite comfortably. I think the fact that they sort of went through extra time and then lost on penalties. If they'd gone through because it's the cup quarter final, you probably wouldn't have heard as much about it, but yeah, it was a bit of a clanger, wasn't it? It's a shame. I feel sorry for Millwall. I feel sorry for teams when they get to the latter stages of the cup and something like that happens, and they've put all that effort in to get as far as they have, and then kind of it's just sort of all undone by just one error. It's a shame.
Shame. So yeah, Brighton go through either way. They'll be pleased to get through to the semi-final as well, and
I think they will. But I think something that was sorry, just quickly, something that was mentioned. Brighton, they need to worry about their league form as well. Just to build on slightly what we said earlier, if Cardiff do win their game in hand, Brighton are only 2 points above them. So they can't forget where they are in the league as well, Brighton, I don't think.
Cool.
But I'm not taking anything away from them. I like Brighton.
We'll see how far they get. We'll go through the draws later. They didn't get the most.
Maybe not much further. No. Yeah.
Anyway, we'll head over to the EFL reviews now. Rich has got the Championship and League One.
Yep. So in the Championship, the top two both won at the weekend. Leaders Norwich won 2-1 away at Rotherham, and Sheffield United in second. I mean, what a game, what 3 points for them. So they went to Leeds, obviously promotion rivals, and they won 1-0 in the early kickoff on Saturday. That sort of blown the top 2 or 3 wide open, really. It's been the same 3 teams up there, but a great win for Sheffield United. It was a mixed day for the other teams in the playoff places. West Brom, they're in 4th. They did win their 2nd game in a row since Darren Moore was sacked. They beat Brentford 1-0 away from home, which is a good result for them. Middlesbrough, they lost their 3rd game in a row. They lost 3-0 away to Aston Villa, who are now up to 6th. Villa have pretty much come from nowhere. That's their 4th win in a row for Villa. And they're now in the playoff places, when I think sort of 4-6 weeks ago, they were sort of just in mid-table. I remember having a conversation with a Villa fan, a friend at work, and just sort of saying they haven't really got a lot to play for. Now they're in the playoff places, but there is only 4 points that separate Middlesbrough in 5th and Nottingham Forest in 11th, so there's still loads to play for in the race for the playoffs, especially the amount of games played in the Championship. 4 points separating 6 places is not a lot. At the bottom, there was no wins for any of the bottom 4. Ipswich, they did get a point in a 1-1 draw at home to Forest, so Forest will probably see that as 2 points dropped. Bolton and Rotherham, they make up the other 2 relegation places, but both lost to Wigan and Norwich respectively. Reading moved a point closer to safety with a good 0-0 draw away at Stoke, so Reading are just outside the playoff place, relegation places. Sorry. In League One, the top 2 could only draw at the weekend, so leaders Luton were held to a 2-2 draw at home to Gillingham, despite twice leading in that match. And 2nd place Barnsley played out a goalless draw away at 6th place Doncaster. That was on Friday night. Sunderland, who are in 3rd, they beat Walsall 2-1, and 4th place Portsmouth beat Scunthorpe 2-0 to keep the pressure on the top 2. Charlton, who are in 5th, they took a point in a 0-0 draw away at Bristol Rovers, and Doncaster make up the final place in 6th. And as mentioned, they drew with Barnsley. At the other end, Bradford are now bottom after a 1-0 loss away to Oxford. Rochdale are in 23rd, but they didn't play at the weekend. Their game was postponed due to the weather. Wimbledon got their 3rd win in a row with a 1-0 away win at Southend, and Walsall make up the final relegation place, and they came away from the Stadium of Light empty-handed after losing 2-1 at Sunderland. So at the bottom, first of all, Wimbledon, if you remember, sort of 5 or 6 weeks, we were sort of saying Wimbledon are doomed.
I was about to say that, yeah.
They're now,
they've won 3 in a row.
Yeah, they've gone up, they've moved up 2 places, but this is really interesting. At the bottom, there's only 8 points which separate 12 teams.
Crazy,
which is nothing really for that amount of teams for the relegation.
Plus, when they've all probably got to play each other as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Wimbledon and, you'll hate this, Chris, Bristol Rovers, they're the most informed team. So both of them have won 3 of their last 5 matches. So Apart from that, it's a mixture of sort of red and green because none of them can seem to put a decent run of form together. But yeah, really close at the bottom of League Two. League One, sorry. Chris, League Two.
League Two. So top place Lincoln played third place Mansfield last night. That one ended 1-1. Mansfield took an early lead in that one. Lincoln actually remained 10 points clear of Mansfield, so they've got a very good lead from first to third there. Bury remains second. Their game was postponed due to the weather. Fourth place, MK Dons drew 1-1 with Stevenage. MK Dons scoring late in that one to rescue a point. Fifth place, Tranmere didn't play. Their game was called off. Forest Green remains sixth after a 1-1 draw with fellow playoff hopefuls Carlisle.
Sorry, Chris. Tranmere in a great one of form, aren't they?
Yeah, they're the informed team in League Two at the moment. I think 5 from 5 at the moment. So yeah, Exeter make up the remaining playoff spots after they comfortably beat fellow playoff rivals Colchester by 3-0. So the teams in 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th played each other at the weekend. So kind of changed around there, the playoff spots. So Exeter are back in there now. So it's pretty close. There's only 1 point between 6th and 10th. So
yeah. Well, I mean, it looks like the top two's pretty much done, doesn't it?
Bury got a game in hand as well. So
Lincoln are 10 points clear in third, but then sort of third, fourth, fifth is anyone's really.
Yeah.
And then dare you look at the bottom, Chris?
Let's get to that.
They're in some serious trouble.
So at the bottom, Notts County picked up a point against Morecambe. That one ended 0-0, and Macclesfield beat Yeovil in what was probably classed as a 6-pointer.
That was a massive game, wasn't it?
Yeah, so Macclesfield won that one 2-0. So Yeovil only 3 points off the relegation zone now, and Macclesfield have a game in hand. So Macclesfield and
Yeovil's goal difference is pretty. It's the best down there, isn't it?
Yeah. And Notts County, so bottom place Notts County are only 3 points behind Yeovil now as well. So they're both 3 points behind Yeovil, but Macclesfield have got a game in hand.
Notts County's goal difference is like minus 33 though, isn't it? I mean, that's like an extra point.
Yeovil are 5 points behind Cambridge, who are above them. So the gap above them is getting.
But we'll say it now, Chris. Are they going to stay up?
The rate they're playing at the moment, no, I don't think they will.
So they've got six.
But they are renowned. They are known
to go.
They are known for being in this sort of position and then managing to kind of get it together last few games and then.
It's in their own hands. I mean, like I say, six games to go. Even if Macclesfield do win their game in hand, they're level on points. So
they're in a tight spot at the moment with obviously the club being taken over.
Big game next.
Imminently.
Big game coming up though. So promotion chasing MK Dons away.
They don't. I saw they reduced the ticket prices for that game. I don't think I'd go and watch them at the moment. It's just from what I hear on Twitter, it's not.
No, that's not it, Chris. That's not what the club needs. The club needs the support. The club needs the fans. They need you guys behind them.
They're not going to get behind the club until they sack the manager. No one's going to get behind them.
I have no allegiance to Yeovil apart from being friends with you, but I want them to stay up.
Don't get me wrong. I want them to stay up, but I'm just saying that.
They beat Lincoln. I mean, recently they've beaten Lincoln, haven't they? So,
but they won't. Fans won't get behind them until they sack the manager. And then apparently, from what I hear, the new owners backing him. So
have they actually taken over? Just very quickly.
Not yet,
they haven't. No, right.
I think they've dotted the I's and crossed the T's, but it's they've got to get the permission from the EFL. They have to do their the Football League have to do all their investigating
fit and proper persons.
Make sure he's not got his hands in other pies, shall we say?
Okay.
League pies. Anyway, yeah, so that's League Two, and that is it for Part 1. We're back in Part 2 with Rich is going to give a roundup on predictions. This week's special topic is around 3 different draws that have been made this week. So it's the FA Cup, Champions League, and Europa League. Rich is going to try and guess my teaser, and then we'll have a go at cracking Pete's teaser as well. So we're back in Part 2.
Hello and welcome back to Part 2 of View from the Sideline podcast. Just going to give a quick update on predictions like we do each week, because we've only got 7 or 8 rounds left now, so we're sort of getting to the business end, if you like, in the race for the View from the Sidelines Predictions Challenge Trophy, which I can feel the excitement in the air. I can feel the excitement.
He's had his hands on that trophy for a long time now.
He has. Yeah, I don't know what to say. He has.
It'd be good if
I'm not sure if anyone would be. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure he'll get over it, but for leading for that long. So Sophie was our guest last week. We did have a replacement match put in, so we put the Millwall Brighton game in because Berry's league game was called off. But Chris came out on top at the weekend. Not huge scores, but he won with 15. So well done, Chris. Coming up this week, so we've got Rachel is our guest predictor this week. I see you throwing the England game in, Chris. Nice touch.
Yeah,
and the MK Dons Yeovil.
Yeah.
Crikey, you've gone for a 3-0 MK Dons win. This is not what the club need.
Yeah.
I've gone 4-1, but so that's the predictions for this week. Like I say, with our guest Rachel. So they will be online shortly. We'll be posting the results at the weekend as normal. We'll see if anyone can get near the 30. But like Chris said last week, we are planning to do a rerun for 2 lucky listeners. We're going to try and stream that live, I believe, Chris. Is that right?
Dabble with Facebook Live.
We'll see how that goes. But yeah, and then we've also been working on some new updates for next year's predictions challenge. So we've got a few twists, a few sort of differences to make it a bit more interesting for next year that we hope to get out, well, for when we come back next season. So yeah, that's predictions. So Chris, let's have a look at which one do you want to go for first? FA Cup?
FA Cup, yeah, because no one's it's Mickey Mouse Cup compared to the rest.
Yeah, no one worries about the FA Cup, do they?
So no one wanted Man City, but someone had to get them, and obviously Brighton did. So they are unfortunately the unlucky team. But I have to say, I'm probably more excited about the other tie, the Watford Wolves game. They are this is going to sound really bad, but they are the best of the rest, shall we say? Am I allowed to say that?
Well, they're fighting out for the so-called Everton Cup, aren't they?
Yeah,
which people like to refer it to.
I think that'll be a good game.
That's a really good game for me, and I've got to be honest with you. On paper, I think Wolves probably slightly edge it, and I also think that Man City Wolves, if Man City were to go through, Man City Wolves would be a closer game than Man City Watford.
Yeah, definitely.
And I really like Watford. I think they've had an absolutely fantastic season. But I think from a footballing perspective, I think City Wolves would be probably
the better final.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
It will be nice. It would be nice for Brighton to get there, but I think we're all human here. I don't think Pep's going to make the same mistakes he made against Swansea.
Well, yeah, exactly. But Brighton, they've got nothing to lose. If they go out and lose 4 or 5-0, then it's probably what people expect to happen. They can give it a go.
Who do you think is going to win it?
What, the cup?
Yeah.
Oh, well, Man City. I think that's a bit of a no-brainer. I'd go Man City, Wolves, Watford, Brighton in that order.
And if if Swansea and Millwall would have got through, technically, if you take it from how it was drawn this week, they would have played each other, wouldn't they?
Yeah, Watford Wolves would have been the pretty much the final. But we are where we are. That's the beauty of football, I guess.
Okay.
Two good draws.
Well, yeah. Okay, we'll do the Europa League one first.
Again, Mickey Mouse Cup.
Champions League one is slightly more, but I have to say, I got the draw that I wanted here.
I cannot believe the draw that Chelsea have had in this competition.
And to be fair,
they're literally playing no one who's any good.
Yeah, well, we've got.
It would be a tricky semi-final. It would be. Benfica and Frankfurt are both good. I mean, Frankfurt knocked out Inter Milan, didn't they?
Yeah, so they can't be that bad. But
no,
I would say out of the 4 ties, we got the probably easier team in the quarterfinals, but then also probably got the better draw on the semi-final as well.
Yeah.
I think Villarreal and Valencia, Spanish teams always tend to do well in this competition, and I think Arsenal have got a huge task on their hands against Napoli. Napoli for me probably the favourites for the competition. I would say joint favourites maybe with Chelsea at the moment. But
I can see it being a Chelsea-Napoli final, and then it'll be interesting with Sarri and Higuain. He's not cup tied, is he? Higuain. He's been playing.
He can. Well, he hasn't actually played.
Just hasn't been scoring. So I can see a Chelsea-Napoli final. I think the fact that Arsenal are home first leg. I think they're home in the first leg.
Well, yeah, they were drawn away, but it had to be changed because Arsenal and Chelsea couldn't play.
Right, okay.
Same night, but because Chelsea have got better rated Confed rating. Arsenal.
I think that the fact Arsenal are a home first leg, I think gives the advantage to Napoli. To be honest, just because I think it'd be easier going away. It'd be easier for Napoli to. I mean, they'll probably get a draw or something in the first leg, and then that'll stand them in good stead going home for the second.
To predict, I would say semi-final will be Napoli versus Villarreal and Benfica Chelsea, and then Chelsea and Napoli getting through to the final. That'll be a good game. I think this isn't being biased or anything, but I think when you look at that draw, I think the best tie that you'll get in the final is Napoli versus Chelsea. I think that'll be the one.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't disagree with you. I mean, Arsenal Chelsea would be a good final.
Yeah, Arsenal Chelsea, Napoli Chelsea. I think we beat Benfica in the Europa League final in 2013. So,
but I would laugh if Prague beat.
Right, we're moving on now. I've had enough of you. Right, moving on. Laugh. Right. Champions League draw.
Yeah. Well, I'm the other way. Well, I say that I had an interesting conversation with Paul Tamlin today, who obviously he was the leader of the predictions challenge for a long time, and he's a Liverpool fan, and we sort of both agreed that, and this might sound a bit out there, but there's been a lot of people who've been saying the same thing. The one team I really wanted to avoid was Juventus.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that are sort of tipping Juventus to win the whole thing. And I think it just shows the sort of effect that Ronaldo's had on them. And they've always been sort of super competitive in Serie A. And there's it's almost a given each year that they're going to win it. But they've never quite got there in the Champions League. And I think Ronaldo's sort of moved them that step closer.
You've avoided them completely, haven't you, up until...
Yeah, but the only time we could meet them will be in the final. But, I mean, if you've got a mini-league, Spurs, City, United and Barcelona, there's probably 2 teams that stick out in that 4. I mean, I think everybody was wanting Porto, with the greatest of respect to them, which Liverpool
one have you got in the semi?
With Barcelona or Man United. So, I mean,
you're going to have to go the hard way about this then, aren't you?
yeah,
So,
absolutely. And I do definitely sit in the camp where it says that any of those 8 teams can win it. If you get to this stage of the tournament, I think that any of them could win it. Whether they will realistically win it is a different thing. I mean,
yeah.
I can't see past Juventus, City, or Barcelona. I think City, Barcelona, if that was the semi-final, there's almost a bit of me
It's
that
almost like the
wants
final, isn't
that
it?
to happen. I want to see City, Barcelona, and I want to see Juventus, Liverpool. I think there'd be two great semi-finals, but you never know, do you? I mean, there's the way to look at it that it can be a good thing to play someone at this stage of the Champions League that you know so well. Does that give you advantage? But at the same time, they know you as well as you know them. So it does work both ways. The great thing is that, and I'm sure you've seen it, is that it will be played at
Yeah, you're going to be playing
Spurs' new stadium.
new stadium.
So that is something. So the first leg will be at the new White Hart Lane. You don't know that may have a positive effect on Spurs, but
Who do you think will get to the final?
well, just lastly on the Spurs one, I would rather the second leg would be at home, but it's just the way it's drawn. I think it will be a Juventus Barcelona final.
I would say you're not going to like this. I'm going to say Liverpool Barcelona final.
Oh, I don't know. I think Juventus would turn Liverpool over personally.
I don't know.
But you've
Liverpool
got
have been
you've
really
got to
good in the
take
Champions League.
yeah, but you've got to take into account the league.
Yeah.
I think that the league, if you gave them the option now and said to Liverpool, you can have the
They
league,
take the league, yeah.
and City can have the Champions League, do you not think both teams would take that?
Yeah.
I think they would. As much as City and Guardiola says the Premier League's the bread and butter, that's the priority. If you said to him now, you can have the Champions League and Liverpool can have the league, I think they would both take it. So you don't know. I mean, and realistically, Juventus will probably have Serie A tied up by then, and they'll have nothing else to play for apart from the Champions League. It's a good shout, but yeah, I'm going Juventus Barca final.
I heard in the did you see the warm up draw or whatever it was, the draw that they do?
No, I didn't. Who got who?
You got Man United in
we?
that one. Yeah, I don't know the rest. I just know that you got Man United.
But just on Barca, I mean, I watched Barca v Real Betis. I watched quite a bit of that Sunday night, and the fact that the away fans were giving Messi a standing ovation just shows what he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, this is probably a debate we'll have one episode on the podcast, Messi versus Ronaldo, but I'm Messi all the way. I just think he is the most gifted footballer I've ever seen of any generation.
With you.
He is so good. Their first goal, free kick, you could just tell he was going to score. It was unbelievable free kick. But yeah, tough draw.
Yeah.
We'll see some good games.
Move on to the teaser. We'll do Pete's one first.
Yeah. Well, I'm putting it out there for this. I'm going Brad Friedel.
He wasn't the name that I was thinking of.
Oh, Matt. Right. Okay. Right. If you got your Google up, we'll have a look. I thought Friedel straight away. I know who you're thinking.
Who am I thinking?
David James.
James or Czech, I was thinking.
Yeah. My God.
Is that right?
No, let's just compare lists because mine's way down. Oh no, that's clean sheets. You might be thinking of clean sheets, Chris. Because Petr Cech is top for clean sheets. Here we go.
I was right. David James.
It is David James.
572. I said Sheck or James.
Oh, right,
There's
okay.
no one near him.
Well,
James Milner's on this list.
Mark
Schwarzer
is from
second.
the keepers, wasn't it? But Gareth Barry, I mean, he's at West Brom now, isn't he? So it was David James.
Yeah.
Oh, I went for Brad Friedel. Never mind.
Schwarzer. Phil Neville.
Phil Neville, yeah.
Right.
Okay, let's have a crack at. I feel slightly disappointed. I got that wrong now. I would have thought it would definitely be David James. Anyway,
so let's go through this list. So I'll post this list up later as well, so you guys can see it. So we'll work from, what do you want to do? Top to bottom or bottom to top?
let's go bottom to top.
Bottom to top. Okay.
So the first two are Man United players. Is that correct?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, Man United.
So the bottom two players on this list, I've gone for Rashford.
So the bottom one is 76.5 million that they're quoted at the moment.
I've gone Rashford.
So Rashford for the bottom one. Right, let me just write Rashford in there for you.
Just tell me if it's right, Chris.
It's wrong.
Good start. Well, I've gone Pogba next, so I've got these two muddled up.
81 million.
I've gone Pogba.
It's Pogba, yeah.
Who's the other United player then?
It was Lukaku.
Oh, I was going to go for him.
Okay, so
I'd rather have Rashford. Chelsea
million.
player?
Yeah, 90 million.
Kante, Chelsea.
Correct. Again, a Man City player, 90 million.
De Bruyne.
Wrong. It's Leroy Sané. Tottenham player, 90 million.
Dele Alli,
yeah. Okay, got another Man City player. This is 108 million.
Well, I went Aguero, but if De Bruyne is not that low, I went Aguero.
It's Sterling.
I went Sterling for the next one.
Oh, Man
which
City.
I bet was De Bruyne.
135 million is De Bruyne.
Yeah.
Chelsea, I think these three are pretty obvious. Chelsea, 135 million.
David Luiz.
Okay, whatever. Right, next one.
I went Eden Hazard. Yeah.
135 million, Harry Kane.
Yeah.
And the top one, which is also 135 million, Liverpool player.
Adam Lallana.
How did you guess?
Mo Salah. Sorry, what's the top value?
135 million.
And
for
what's
Salah,
Harry Kane?
Kane, Hazard, and De Bruyne.
Oh, they're all the same value.
Yeah.
So I'd like to know how that's worked out.
Yeah.
If any of those were sold, they'd all go for more than that.
I think that's their price that they're at. But that isn't the price that you would sell them for. You'd have to buy them for at least probably, 40, 50 million more than that.
Yeah, probably.
Sterling 108 million. I wasn't really surprised. Rashford was 19th be worth more than that. List,
was he really?
Yeah.
That does surprise me.
Mane was 11th. He was 76.5. So yeah, well he got the first one wrong, so he didn't really.
No, yeah, that was a bit disappointing. I kind of lost interest after I got the first one wrong. Oh well, never mind.
Yeah, anyway.
That was a good one. You'll have to post that online, Chris, so people actually know what we're talking about.
I'll take a picture of it. Let me take a picture of it. I'll do it now. Look, a live picture of it right now. But yeah, anything else for this week, Rich?
It was a good one. Yeah, it was a good one.
Oh, there we go. I'll put Mane in there as well. So that's it.
I think that
everything.
International break.
Yes.
This week we'll still have the EFL review, but we're going to do You may remember in an earlier episode we did our combined Premier League 11. We're doing a similar thing, but we're doing it with European players, so players outside of the English leagues, are sort of top European 11. So Chris will be picking his 11 and I will be picking mine, and then we'll be going through that next week. So yeah, a bit of a special next week, but we still have obviously prediction results and a teaser, normal sort of features. Yeah, but we won't have a Premier League review, so we'll be doing our European 11.
Cool. So that is it for this week. So see you next week.
Yep. Speak to you soon.